life. At this time, we will have roll call.
Mr. Cunningham?
Mr. Okay.
Mr. Vines?
Here.
Ms. Dial? Here. Ms. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Call?
Here.
Okay, thank you. The first order of business today, we need to approve, amend the agenda. It's approval for Mr. Cunningham to join us today virtually. Motion to amend the agenda to allow Michael Cunningham electronic participation in the April 5th, 2022 special call meeting due to medical reasons.
A
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. At this time, we will take a vote.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Ms. Thomas?
Yay.
Mr. Call?
Okay, motion
Does
approved.
Mr. Cunningham?
Yeah, he gets it.
You can vote if you want.
Mr. Cunningham?
It's gonna be unanimous.
So okay, 5-5, motion approved. Of course, we would like to welcome our guest of honor here today, Ms. Gina Patterson from Virginia School Board Association. Thank you very much for joining us and helping us through this process. Okay, I know we just found out about a month ago, and you were like, as soon as you got the call, you gave us some dates immediately, and you're here today, and we appreciate that, Mrs. Patterson, and your expertise. For those of you who do not know, Mrs. Patterson helped us a few years ago, I guess it's been about 7 years ago now, when we went through this process, and she did an excellent job. Okay, at this time, we will ask Mrs. Dow to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Our business for today is Virginia School Board Association Superintendent Search, and this is right, we call the special meeting. At this time, I would turn this portion of the meeting over to our guest of honor, which is Mrs. Patterson.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you all for being here today. We are delighted to assist you all in a process that will help this board select your next superintendent of Wight County Public Schools. I have put by each of your seats a booklet, and don't be overwhelmed by that. If you all know anything in a short period about VSBAs, that will probably give you more information than you need. You probably see that from email and correspondence constantly. But you know, my motto is best to have too much than not enough information. So with that said, we're going to go through this process, and the most important piece that we want to come out with today is from this board is a timeline that you can share with your community on what you want as far as how the process should start, how the process should end, and then of course the involvement of your community in the process. And you all know, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, you can't make a decision on something, well you can, by law you can, but you don't want to or you shouldn't make a decision on something this important without the involvement of your stakeholders from your community, because they all have a vested interest in this very important process. I think Denise, you're the only one on this current board that's ever been through a process of selecting a superintendent, and as you know, and you can share with your fellow board members, it's a lot of work, a lot of time commitment from all. This is one of those things that you never want any board member to be missing from the discussion or process, because what you don't want to say is later that you were not involved in the making or the selection or the hiring of your next superintendent. Truly, the board is responsible for hiring one person who oversees your district, and I cannot express enough how important it is that this process with the board takes place and that everyone is involved in the process. I would say to you all along the way, since this is new, you've never done a search before, it doesn't matter what the question is. If there's something you all think of, or any of you think of individually, that you would like clarification from the SBA, and if we can answer it, please reach out to me on that 1-800 number on the cover. You all also have my email, and I'd be happy to answer anything, because it is a lot. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot of work, a time commitment from you, the board. But you also want to set this process up so that the community knows your business life, your structure, and at the end of the day, your goal is to hire the best fit for all of Wight County Public Schools. So to start off with, we're gonna eventually go over that sample. There's some loose papers in your book, or there should be. Did each of you have like some loose papers?
Yes.
That we're gonna go over the sample timeline that's been put together and finalize it. Like I said, that's probably the most important piece today. But at first I wanna go over, if it's okay with you all, this book, and let's cover some items. And again, anytime through this process, please stop me if you have questions, because I'd rather answer them right there on the spot. Because if you're like me, I may think of it, and if I don't write it down, I may forget about it before we get going. Let me again say that this book is yours during the process. If you turn to page 4 in this book, I'm going to move around a little bit. Turn to page 4 in the book. This is truly your book while the process is going on. We ask that if you have notes, you want to make notes, and you're going to, throughout the process, that you try to keep them as much as possible in this manual. That's why there are so many blank pages. We will collect it when the process is over. But one of the things you all want to make sure you do, and we want to make sure you do, one of the most important things, is that we keep you legal through this process. And the confidentiality piece. I don't know if you all have agreed upon it as a board collectively or not, but the confidentiality of your candidates is so important. It's going to determine the quality of candidates you get. Now, if you get to the process where you and the candidate or a finalist or group finalist say you want to meet community members or you want to go another route, that's fine, but that's something that should be discussed before names are divulged. One of the things that is most important is if you want quality candidates, you have to make sure as soon as their names come in for an application packet, they're not out in the community who's applied for this position. It will truly determine your candidates and who applies, and maybe who even pulls out if they feel their names are compromised. Look at it this way. Strong superintendents don't work for dysfunctional boards. And they don't work for ones for something that may or may not be. So there may be applying here, but if they're good quality candidates, they probably have a good job somewhere else. And you don't want to jeopardize that, or they don't, for something that may or may not be. But there is a process. So again, during the process, page 4, just make sure you make notes. You're going to make notes. We're going to send you several emails through your i-sle email address during the process. And does everyone do all of you use your i-sle?
Yes.
Yes.
For this purpose, and my attorney wants me to stress this, we ask that for anything for this process that you use your i-sle email address and not your personal email address.
And we also have our Wight County phone numbers as well. So when they communicate with you, it should be through the Wight County number.
Okay. All right, or you can just call my office.
I mean, if they call the office, it should be
Okay.
using their Wight County phone.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, so if you want to, let's run over to page 10 real quick. I want to talk to you all a little bit about the qualifications for the division superintendent. So if my information is correct, Dr. Thornton will be leaving you all as of June 30th of this year, which gives you technically 180 days after July 1. Starting July 1, you have 180 days to hire your next superintendent by law. So you are really ahead of the curve, but I'm assuming your goal is to have someone in here sooner than later. But let's just talk about this a little bit. July 1 would be the ideal date for anyone based on that all contracts must start for superintendents on July 1. All contracts must end on June 30th. So that way you could have at bare minimum a 2 or 3 or 4 year contract. That initial contract has to be by law a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4. After that first year, you can do an addendum and add time onto it if you want, but that is 2 years is the max. I mean, the minimum. 4 years is the max you can give on that first contract.
Gina, I do have a question. So the way I understand it, as you're explaining it, we can't go ahead and get an interim superintendent. We've got to hire a permanent
Oh, no. I was going to talk about that.
Okay.
Just one step ahead of me.
Okay, good
Great, but it's a great question. And that's why honestly, that's why I was bringing this up. So if we had started this process maybe in January or February, more than likely we would have someone ready to start by July 1. Given that we're now in April and we're just starting the process, it's more likely than not you will not have anyone in place, but it's just almost impossible.
Right.
So your question is correct. You all are going to need to hire an acting superintendent that can run the division until you hire your next superintendent.
Okay.
Perfect. That may be for 2 months, maybe for 3 months, it may be for a month. But let's look at that sample timeline. Great question, though. Let's look at that sample timeline that we have here. Bare minimum on the sample timeline, if the board was to go with this process, you wouldn't even start interviewing until the middle of June. It's going to take you probably at least a month to do interviews, and who knows, some of you may have vacation or other things already in the mix come June, July. So those are things you want to think about. So if the next person hired as your next superintendent, at bare minimum will probably be August, maybe September, and in all actuality, it could be October 1 before that person could start. So that's a perfect question. So one of the things you all need to put at the top of your to-do list amongst the search process is to find someone that can fill in as your acting superintendent. And that's basically somebody would be really willing to run the division until you hire your next superintendent. It maybe it's someone internal, maybe it's someone from the outside. That is truly the will of this board. There's no right or wrong for that. It depends on what you all want and are looking for as a board. If there's someone or some people internal you think that could do it, that's fine. I will say they don't have to be a superintendent in Virginia, you have to be on the superintendent's eligible list. To be an acting superintendent, you don't have to be on the super. It's almost like being a substitute teacher and not have a teaching license. So, but great question and something you all want to think about right away.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Can your interim still apply to be the
Acting.
full-time?
I don't say interim Virginia, but acting.
Okay, the acting one, can they still apply to be?
Yes, and I will say this, sometimes boards will put someone that may be interested in as acting, and sometimes, and they have the option to apply. There are boards, let me tell you both sides of that. There are sometimes boards who don't do that because they just don't, for many reasons. They don't want, if that person's not hired, then they still want that person in the system. But yes, I've seen it done both ways. And there's not a right or wrong, it's what's the fit for you all. And you have to think about, okay, so if you're hiring someone that's currently in this system already doing a job for you as your acting superintendent, are you loosening up other you have to think about, do you understand what I'm saying? There's probably a level of compensation you want to think about for whoever you're putting in that position. So there's not a right or wrong, but definitely, yes, you can do that way, or you could bring someone in from the outside. The advantage of having someone on the inside is, sometimes if you're bringing someone in on the outside, by the time they get up to speed and acclimated with your division, September, time to go. So, and then the willingness of the person, they may not want to serve as your acting. So those are questions you all will have to decide. And at bare minimum, I think you all will want to do that sooner than later, even though Dr. Thornton is technically not leaving until June 30th. But you want to probably have that piece in place. That's one less thing you have to be worried about. Great question. Anyone else before we move on? Okay. All right, so looking at page 10, as I said, you have 180 days once a vacancy occurs. Of course, we don't want it to take that long. And as I said, in an ideal situation, a July 1 start date would have been great, not the case. So let's say that person that you're hiring comes on in September, you would have to do at minimum a 2-year, 10-month contract or 3-year, 10-month contract. And that's just some things, food for thought for you all to think of. But page 10, I told you page 10, but page 10 talks about the qualifications for being a superintendent. There are 4 options in which an individual must fall under to be on what they call the superintendent's eligible list in Virginia. There's truly a list of eligible superintendents through the VDOE. And you have to follow one of these 4 options on page 10, 11, or 12 to be superintendent. If you look, I'm just going to have you skip real quick. If you look on page 13, option 4, this is just something to keep in mind. There is an option for what they call an alternative track for a superintendent. That may be someone that's been former CEO, military, or something like that, and they want to be superintendent. That is an option, but the board, you would have to go make the request to the VDOE that you do that 4th option. And You could, I just wanted to point that out to you. Page 15 is actually the page that talks about superintendent's contracts. Like I said, all superintendent contracts expire on June 30th. So that means, that's why I said July 1 would be an ideal start date, but that's okay. You just can't do a straight 2, 3, or 4-year contract. You have to do at minimum 2 years something, 3 years something, and not a clean 2, 3, or 4 years. So that's just something you want to keep in mind. Page 17 talks a little bit about the certificate of appointment. As Jessica, this is more for you. Once the superintendent has been hired, and I'll send you a reminder, you will need to send to the Secretary of Ed a copy of this information so that they have on file who your next superintendent of Wight County is. Same thing with page 18, just like the board takes the oath of office, the superintendent, before he or she starts their position, must also take that oath of office. Then I want you to move to page 20 and 21. We're getting ready to talk about that in your timeline, but I wanted you to have that process, that information. But where I want you to jump to real quick for me, I know we're jumping around, is page 24. I want to talk a little bit about stakeholder involvement. If you are like most communities, there's probably people already wondering where you are or what you're going to do with the hiring of your next superintendent. How can they get their input in? How can they tell you what qualities they'd like to see in the next superintendent? We suggest you do 2 things. You find a date where this board, all 5 of you, can attend a public hearing to hear from the community the qualities they'd like to see in the next superintendent. And that is just that. It's not the board dialoguing with the community or giving your opinion to the community. It's just the opposite of that. It's the community telling you what qualities they would like to see in the next superintendent. This is a public hearing for nothing else, for just that purpose. And you want to do that. You want to make sure you get that out and visible and advertised as soon as possible. You want to make sure you give everybody that wants to speak a chance to speak. So if it takes 2 hours to do your public hearing, then it takes 2 hours. But what you don't want to do is not have it so that everyone can speak. You want parents involved. You want anyone that pays taxes in this community involved. You want your staff members involved. And so that's great. You have that form through the public hearing. But I would also suggest on top of the public hearing, you do a survey of the community. And actually, we've already done the survey for you, assuming that you all were going to be in agreement with doing a survey. And the basis of the survey is just to list the qualities that the community would like to see in the next superintendent. That survey is ready to go as soon as you all hit the button. It'll be ready to go. You decide this afternoon, which I think will probably be a great idea, as I've talked to Jessica about already. You're going to want to make sure as many community members as possible get access to the survey. You want to put a copy of the link to the survey on your website. You want to send out, Jessica, do you all do robocalls where you can send them to the parents and to staff? I would suggest that gets done once now, maybe a reminder prior to the survey closing to remind people to complete the survey. You want everybody, every employee you have, you should encourage to complete the survey. And I say this because you want community members, you want parents, you want your staff. Because once the survey closes, the VSBA, so nobody from this office will touch the survey, VSBA touches the survey, we will tally the survey, disaggregate the information, and send it back to the 5 of you all. And that's going to help you determine what qualifications you are going to put in the position announcement. And let me say this, when I say we disaggregate that information, I'm saying that we're going to give you an overall what folks said. But you should also want to know what teachers said, from what parents said, from what community members said, because that pulse could be all over the place. Believe it or not, sometimes it is. But you all want to keen in on some of that, because that could help you as you start to say, okay, well, what qualities do we need for example, a superintendent that's more of a communicator, more of a collaborator, more involved. at the building day-to-day level. Those are the type of factors you're going to find out through that survey. No right or wrong, but everybody's opinion counts in that process. But I will say this to you all, the board, and hear me, Mr. Cunningham, when I say this as well. If you all decide to involve the community through a public hearing and a survey, then involve them. Don't involve them in words, but then in deed, you all are doing something else. Does that make sense what I'm saying to you? So if you're saying you want their opinion, and let's say I'm just going to give you this one for example. Maybe it's overwhelming. 95% of the respondents to the survey said that the next superintendent at some point must live and buy a home and be a resident of Wight County. But then you all go put on your position announcement, living in Wight County is not a requirement. Does that make sense? There's a disconnect there somewhere. So if you truly say you want their opinion, you have to use the opinion. Now, the board, at the end of the day, ultimately, you're going to hire your next superintendent. But you can't go wrong by getting a pulse from your community. Because at the end of the day, whoever you hire, you want to make sure you're focusing on who you hired, not the 10 other people you didn't hire because you didn't follow a process. Does that make sense? And I can't say that enough. I know it sounds a little dramatic, but at the end of the day, it can truly set someone coming in here that can do the job on the wrong path because they felt like the process wasn't as transparent as it should have been. So, just something to keep in mind. So I guess while we're here, are you all in agreement to the public hearing and a survey?
Yes.
Do you think with this community that you need more than one public hearing, or do you think one public? Most do put one. There are some boards that do two. I don't know the size of. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are two because of the size of the county.
Is it really spread out?
Yeah, it sure is. One at the north end and one at the south end.
But when we normally do two, we used to do two for budget hearings. And we found out nobody would show up. One or two people would show up at each end of the county. So then what we started doing, like this year, we just did one public hearing and we located it centrally in the county. Because we would have one at one high school and then one on the other.
But did it increase your numbers by
Yes.
consolidating it, you think?
We did. We had a few more to come.
Okay.
But I think we would probably get more activity with the survey.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. I would also say this, and I don't know your community, that's why we're talking here. If you think it would behoove you to do an evening public hearing and maybe do one on like a Saturday morning or whatever, I don't know. I know there are areas that say that a lot of their parents work at night. They have jobs where they work overnight. I don't know. Most boards do one, but you all, that's a question I can't substitute for you all. I don't know the answer. That's what I'm saying. What do you all think would be best as far as the public?
I think the county is spread out. And because it is spread out, two may be beneficial.
The positive with two would be that at the end of the day, no one can come back and say that they didn't have a chance.
Exactly.
Even if no one shows up, it's not from you all not putting the effort out there to invite them to participate.
So we need to vote on that now and have 2 meetings.
Well, you're not voting.
You can't vote today.
No, you're not making voting. But we are going to look at dates in a little bit, so.
Okay.
Mr. Cunningham, did you have any questions?
I think if we did two, we could select 2 days during the week, like possibly a Tuesday and a Thursday in 2 different locations, the high schools. But if we decided to do one, then if we did it on a Saturday, that would work. If we had to do one, then Saturday, when most people are not working, I think that would be the way to go. But I mean, those are the 2 options that I would go with.
I would challenge you just a bit on the Saturday. If you're going to do Saturday, I would do a weekday too. I know as a parent on Saturdays, I'm picking up basketballs, soccer balls, lacrosse sticks. I'm just saying you may want to be, think about parents also.
And this is a locality where you have a lot of parents and families, even the grandparents are involved in the sports activities on Saturdays.
So if you're going to do it, if you do Saturday, I think Saturday's a great idea, but if you're going to do that, I would do that in conjunction with another date as well, so.
Okay.
All right, just a thought. All right, so we're going to talk, we're going to go back to the timeline, but if you turn to page 27, this will, page 27 actually, well, I'm sorry, turn to page 26 first. Jessica, this is the document I shared with you. We already put some information. You all have this as a loose document. It's highlighted. It's just the sample announcement, a press release that should go out immediately from this board, that you are business-like structured, you're getting ready to start the process for the superintendent search, and that you already in the press release have put, if you look at this sample press release, the link to the survey is already there for you all to complete. So the link is already there, and the only thing that would need to be filled in on this survey at this point would be a location or locations for the 2 public hearings, and then a date and a time for those events. So you're going to want to do that, make that announcement, and then start on page 27. This is an example of the sample survey. And why this is important is right now, I mean, we could actually put an application out and say, okay, Wight is accepting applications for superintendent. But based on what? You don't know what you're looking for at this point. For instance, let's just look at question number 1, an earned doctorate. Is that from your community? Is that a requirement? Is that preferred, or is that not important? I'm going to tell you that is different in every division. That looks a little bit different, and that's okay. But you don't want to have a doctorate as required and then end up hiring somebody that doesn't get their PhD, doesn't finish their dissertation or whatever until May of 2023. Okay, they may have it, but they didn't have it when you hired them. So those are little things you're going to want to start thinking about. So this, and if you look up here at the top of here where I say we disaggregate the information, you see your parent, you could be a parent, you could be several things. You could be a parent, you could be a school teacher, you could be a PTO member, you could belong to a civic organization, you could be a lot of different things. But what we're asking you, when you fill out this survey, what is the burning factor for you? I will use me as an example. I know as a child, with a child in school, a parent, no matter administrator, a parent would always be at the core of what I feel. And I could still be a teacher, I could still be a PTO member. But this is also important as we start to disaggregate that information for you. So why are the parents saying that I'm not saying this to be true, but the communication is not strong? Yet the teachers say the communication is great. Somewhere, do you understand what I'm saying? Somewhere there's a disconnect there. But you all should want that as a board, because that helps you as you start to determine, okay, where do we need to go next with this? So these are the things to keep in mind. And I use the example of the residency piece. Be careful with that one. It's on here, and it's something you want to pay close attention. I would say 25 years doing this, almost 25, not quite, 24. Doing this 24 years ago, it was almost always you had to live physically buy a home and live in that district. Not so much anymore, but in some divisions, it's truly a deal breaker, So you have, the person that runs the school, sometimes one of the most highest paid, if not the highest paid person in the community, but they don't live there, the kids don't go to school there. It's, for some folks, that's an issue. For some, it doesn't matter. Sometimes, we'll have boards say, well, we don't really even have housing right now for the superintendent, where the superintendent can live. But I will tell you, it'll probably be one of the strongest things it'll be so overwhelming on your survey, you'll know the answer right away. So, just some things to keep in mind. You all, if you look on page 30, it lists some stuff that needs to go in the position announcement, and Jessica and I already did the shell of the announcement thanks to her. The only thing that's not ready, if you all look at your sample position announcement, it has demographic information on the county, the school division as a whole, it has all that information, your total student population, total employees, your division budget for 2021-22. What it doesn't have is qualification, because that's the job of this board. It is your all's job to plug in those qualifications you say you're looking for. And we're going to talk about how you do that in a minute, but I just want you all to take a look at that. One of the things, though, anyone that applies for the position, the SBA must make sure that that individual is either currently on the state's eligible list to be a superintendent, or that they can get on the list. Because you all can interview someone without being on the list. You You all cannot make an offer to hire someone if they're not on the state's eligible list. But I always say to folks, if you're truly interested in a position, why wouldn't that have been one of the first things you've done to get on the list? But if, once the information starts to come in and we see it, we'll say, hey, we don't see you on the eligible list, and we have a list of who's eligible, who's not, and we'll say, hey, you may want to get in touch with the Office of Teacher Licensure and make sure you get on that list. So that's just something for you. Starting on page 31, these are some sample position announcements. For example, look at this one is long. Don't look at that one. Look at the one on page. That one's a little long. Look at Manassas City on page 38. As you see, they have their city stuff, their division, demographics, their qualifications. There's qualifications. Experience as a classroom teacher or principal or director is required. So that means, in that case, if you've never been a classroom teacher or principal or director, guess what? Don't even apply for this position. And if you apply, then you immediately will not be brought forward by us because you've not met the minimum requirements. So those are the things you want to think about. And so there's a big difference between required and preferred. Keep that in mind. Required and preferred. Required is pretty much a deal breaker. But if you look at, these are just some samples. Like I said, your information is ready to go except your qualifications, which you all will not have ready until after the public hearings and until after the survey closes. And the survey, and we'll go over that in a minute. Skip to page 47. Denise, this will be even new since the last time we did, how long is your superintendent here, 6 or 7 years? 7 years? This was not the process. This process is called AppleTrack. It's used probably by more school systems than anything or any educational groups to take applications for superintendent search, for teachers, for principals. It's a secure process that you use for folks to apply. You all will each receive an email from us in the next few days telling you how to log on, what your password is, and we'll know how you log on, like I said, you have to use your school account, and it will tell you how you can get on. What we want you all to be able to do is make sure that whatever we see, you see. What VSBA does not want to do is to say, oh, so Isle Wight had 50 applications, but we bring you 5. Well, that's not right. You have 50 applications. Unfortunately, you all need to see 50 applications. Now, does that mean all of those 50 will meet your minimum requirements? No, but what you all don't want to do is have to answer to your community or anyone else that you didn't see every application, that some other group was substituting their judgment for yours. And unlike a search firm, that's where we are different. You all are our members. At the end of the day, when you all win, we win. When you lose, we lose. So what I'm saying to you is, if you get 50 applications, y'all get to see all 50 like we do. Now, it's our job to make sure that those, to bring back to you those that meet the minimum requirements from what you stated you are looking for. Turn to page 50. This is a perfect example. If you look at page 50, this is actually what the AppleTrack program looks like. At the bottom, you'll see where it says you'll have to sign in. You all will have a unique password that is for each one of you, and that's for many reasons, but it's for a security reason, just for you all, where you all will be able to go in, and as the applications start to come in, you all will be getting emails, and it will say, Renee, in an email, you just received an application, ... Then you would be able to click on that, go in there, and look at that application. If you're like most folks, you may wait closer to the deadlines, because truly, they're going to all come in closer to the deadline. That's just for people feel that their information is protected the longer they hold out on that. But no matter what, as they come in, you'll be able to see them. They will all, each applicant will be assigned a job code. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Just AppleTrack gives them a job code, and you will have that, and that will also help you as you start to think. But you all are going to also want to make sure before we come back to meet with this board to go over the applications, that you all have looked at every applicant that has applied. not so that you're making decisions, but you all do need to have a frame of reference when we come back. If I'm talking about applicant 111, and you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, you should have at least looked at their packet to know if they have experience as a classroom teacher or they're coming from a non-traditional type background, because you have to have some way of following what we're saying to you. And if you're like most people, you're probably already going to have a list of top 10, top 5, or whatever, and see how that compares to what we're telling you. And you should. You should. I'm not telling you to be out there doing reference checks, but I'm telling you based on the packet of information you all have received. Starting on page 53, we're going to talk about this when we come back for our closed session. Starting on page 53 are sample interview questions, page 53 to 57, and they're based on, they're broken down by things you're looking for. Maybe someone's community involvement or employee relations or what their experience level is. You all are going to want to start thinking shortly after we come for that second meeting, your process for doing interviews. And one of the things we're going to have to make sure we do is that your questions are based on those qualifications. If you said these are the qualifications you're looking for, then your questions, if you say your qualifications are apples, but you start talking about cherries, then you've gone off the rail from where we're at. So we need to keep it based on what you stated you're looking for. So if that's what you're looking for, that's what we need to ask. And that these questions are yours. You can use them. You can create your own. You can combine them. But it truly, everyone needs to be a part of this interview process. Everyone needs to have questions, and there's a process, and we'll walk you through that. But just start to look at those. Page 59, Jessica, this is important for you. Page 59, and I will pull this out and give it to you before I leave today. The law says while this board is conducting a superintendent search, they don't have to say when, where, or what time they will be conducting interviews. That's for confidentiality purposes. We got the law changed several years ago for that. What the law does say is they have to give a 15-day window in which they will be conducting interviews. And that's basically what page 59 says. And this statement must be read in a public meeting before they can start doing interviews. And so basically, for all purposes, let's just say the Wight County School Board will be conducting interviews May 1st or May 15th. That's a 15-day window. That's all you have to say, but it just has to be done in public. If they're still interviewing 15 days after that, which I bet they will, because you're going to do a first round, a second round, if you like most, you'll probably do a third round. Then prior to that 15 days, they need to come back and announce another 15-day period, which may mean, depending on where your meetings fall, you may have to call a special meeting just for that purpose. But they have to state in an open meeting the 15-day window. That important. So keep that in mind. Then starting on page 60, these are some interview organizers. Again, we'll talk about this when we come back for that second meeting, but just stuff for you all to take a look and start thinking about. And actually some articles on salary and compensation that you all may want to read at your leisure as you help. Let's say you've never, I don't think you've hired a million people, you've never hired a superintendent, and the process is a little bit different. Then starting on page 70 is the sample superintendent contract. Bless you. I would tell you all to pay close attention to this. I would tell each one of you, if you don't currently have a copy of your current superintendent's contract, get it. Take a look at it. See how it compares to this contract that we have. Our contract changes every year based on law and requirements. But I will also tell you, we are the Virginia School Boards Association. Our loyalty is to school board members. Superintendents have their own association, they have their own attorneys. A lot of candidates don't like our contract. I'm just going to be honest with you. They don't like the VSBA contract. It's pretty, some pretty strong language in here. And the reason why is because we don't want you all to obligate yourself or think about even a future board to something that you may not even understand. I'll give you an example. Unused sick and vacation leave. A lot of boards will let superintendents carry unused sick and vacation from other days. Okay, so when they take unused sick and vacation, are they using your sick and vacation, or are they using what they carried in? So when they go to leave and there's a buyout, are you paying them for unused sick and vacation they accrued somewhere else, or you're paying? Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is it's just smart. Just sport smart stuff that you don't want the community to ding you all for. So it's pretty strict in here. I will tell you, anything that's underlined and bold in this book, pay close attention to it. If you have questions, ask me when I come back. But I would also tell you, get a copy of your current superintendent's contract and take a look at it. You may not change a thing, but if you haven't seen it, how would you know? It's public information. So, now I want to go back. Any questions on that piece? Because I know that's a lot. Okay. Now I want to go back to you, and I'm sorry, Dr. Cunningham. I keep saying Dr. Cunningham, Mr. Cunningham, but we will we'll have a copy for you, and you may want to take notes to this. On this, let's go back to that timeline, which is so important. Do all of you all have a copy of the sample timeline?
Yes.
Just so you have one. So the sample timeline has that on April 5th, which is today, the announcement to the public of the superintendent search, and that should be done by that press release going out, that information going out. It has, at this point, as a sample, the deadline for surveys is April 19th. So that means the survey would go live today and it would stay live until April 19th. So everyone has a chance to complete that. It also has one of your public hearings being on the same date as the survey closing. So you all would have to look and see if April 19th will work for you all for a public hearing.
It's on a Tuesday.
Did you hear that date, Mr. Cunningham?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Now, that was April 15th, correct?
19th. 19th.
19th.
It's a
Okay,
Tuesday.
Thank you. Got it.
Anyone? Does it work for you all?
It works for me.
And so what time do you all normally do your public hearings?
6 o'clock.
Whatever you normally do, you want to keep that, like if you normally do 6, continue at
We
6
normally
o'clock.
do our meetings at 6.
You normally do your meetings at 6.
Other than our regular meetings, we start at 5 because we normally go.
Oh, but that's a board, that's a board meeting.
But our special meetings and public hearings and things, 6 o'clock.
And where do you normally do those? Think about your size of those folks that want to speak and you want to have.
West Side Elementary.
So Jessica, would you all then need to check to see if the school is available then? And is there an alternative if that doesn't work?
Are we just doing the one?
I'd
I
like
thought
to-
they said
two.
Doing two.
We're gonna do probably,
A Saturday.
no,
Well,
we could do both. We could do one at West Side and do the other one up at Georgia Tyler because they have the auditorium as well.
Beautiful.
What is that, a school too?
It's a middle school, yeah, up on the southern end of the
What's it
county.
called again, Denise?
Georgia D. Tyler Middle School.
Okay. And what date would you do the second one?
We could do it the same, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, or we could do one, we have to have it close together, right?
You probably want
time
to,
frame.
you probably want it pretty close, not the
Okay.
same date.
But we can do Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday.
The 21st is our actual school.
Well, we
board
can't
meeting.
do Thursday because
That's
that's
our actual
our
school
school
board
board meeting because of
How about
spring
the
break.
following-
Yeah.
Following Tuesday.
So what about for the teachers, like, for the parents, like she said, that work at nighttime? Like, we're not okay with a Saturday? I thought one would be during the week and one would be on the Saturday.
What's the Saturday after the 19th? Well, I mean,
That Saturday is
The
the
23rd.
It's the
23rd.
That's before Easter. That's the
Easter is the weekend before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the Easter's like the 17th.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's the
it sure
17th.
is.
Yeah, Easter is the 17th.
I think we should do a Saturday for those who, you don't know what hours they work. They may work at night and they still want to come. So I think having a Saturday in the morning, that will allow them to come afternoon, whatever, will allow them to come on a weekend.
Will all of the board members have to be present for the public hearing?
They don't have to, but.
The reason is I have a wedding that weekend and I won't be
Yeah, no,
available.
they don't have to be, but
Could we do the Tuesday up at Georgie Tyler, the Saturday here at West Side, because most of your sports is closer to here. And so we could possibly bring more parents in, whose kids are involved in sports.
What about Tuesday and Wednesday? One
You
on
can do
one,
it
and-
too. You
yeah,
can
we
do-
can
yeah,
do
what's-
one
So
Tuesday,
do
one
the
Wednesday.
19th or 20th?
Yeah, 19th and
You
20th.
good? Yeah, it's up to you. That's truly the will of the board, so.
That's what we would normally, well, that's what we used to practice when we did our budget 2 days. We would have one in one place one day, and then the next day we would go to the other location.
Then that means we'll have a meeting, that means we'll have one on the
Back to back.
19th, the 20th, and 21st.
That's right.
But wait a minute, he just said he has a school board meeting on this.
We have school board meeting on the 21st, so we'll have a meeting Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Okay. Are y'all good for that? This, the will of the board, the will of the board. What do you all say?
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. How's
That's
that?
fine. That-
3 meetings?
I have no problem with that.
You said 3
Renee?
meetings? I mean, I'm not because I work, so for
Well,
two
we-
people that don't work, I mean, it's difficult for a parent that I
We've gotta
don't
make
parent
it-
any
yeah,
work.
we've gotta
so-
make
Well, I would say as long as you can get the majority of you to the public, you
Yeah.
do want to show that, like, if 2 people show up, that's not a good scene.
Right.
Right.
You should try to have as many of you, because you also
Well-
do want to hear from what the community,
Right.
also
Yeah, I
want to hear what the
can-
community.
If you can't be there, Renee,
No, I
If
can
you-
be
I mean,
there,
if-
what I'm saying is I'm trying to speak for parents that work, that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to be funny, but you two retired, so, I mean, I don't know
Yeah, I
if
can
you're
do
thinking
it, I
about
can
the
do it
parents
almost
that
whenever,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, so she gotta get home and prepare for a kid.
I don't have a
No,
problem doing it
I
on
can
a
make it
Saturday.
Saturday, but I just want to speak for parents that work. So if they work at night, doing it 2 days back to back is not gonna benefit them.
Mhm.
Well, you all can do it that Saturday. I just won't
That's
be
fine.
available that
That's
Saturday
fine.
because I have a wedding and I'll be out of town.
That's fine.
Okay, so what's the dates?
I think we should do that following Saturday.
19th and the 23rd.
Yeah,
What time on the 23rd?
10 o'clock.
that's fine. That's fine. I think that's reasonable.
And what location
Yeah.
did you say? Did you say west side for the Saturday?
I'd like to do West Side on Saturday, Georgie Tyler on Tuesday.
I actually like to do the opposite.
Do the opposite. Because I have a feeling those who really don't want to come on Saturday, they live on the southern end, they will come down to West Side.
Is this not a middle point for South and,
Well, eventually, all of our meetings are going to be at West Side.
right?
So, hey, they can probably get used to coming down.
Why can't they be in the middle for both?
It's pretty much our middle this way.
So what are we saying?
Well, we're going to do West Side because
Wednesday.
West Side is set up for our meetings.
Both?
Because this is where we're going to start having
So
our
are you
regular
saying
meetings.
you're doing both of them at west side?
I think we should because we have the teleprompters. and
Yeah, we have
on the
everything
side.
already set up.
And just in
It's
case.
a good half-hour drive, you know, from my house, and it's another 15 minutes till we leave Carsville. So we're talking 45 minutes for some people to come down for it.
But it's not like they have to come every week, every month. It's if they really want to attend and it's something special, I mean, I think they'll take the
I
drive.
think we should make it.
I'm okay with a
as easy
different
as possible.
location.
Yeah,
I think the first
let
one
me
should
say
be-
something. If the goal was to capture people on both sides of the county, you're not doing that then.
Okay. Well, then we will have Tuesday night meeting at West Side. The reason is we have to, our staff, I'm thinking about the staff because they're going to have time to set up. Saturday morning wouldn't matter because they're not working Saturday, okay? So they can get to Georgia Tower and set up. But for a Tuesday evening meeting, they would be leaving, setting up, which West Side is already set up.
So Georgia, Tyler, you said 10 o'clock then on Saturday. right?
Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we also need to consider too that we have a state board member and at West Side, Mike can teleconference in there.
Right.
We don't have it set up to teleconference in at
But see,
Georgia
but
Tower.
that's fine, but that's why I said have it on Tuesday, because he can do most of his constituents are on this end of the county.
Right.
And then most of yours and Mr. Collett are on the southern end of the county. So it's important that you all be there, because that's where your constituents are, and they would like to see you there. Not saying you have to be there, but they would like to see you there.
Not from the top to
But
the
if
bottom.
Mr. Cunningham cannot attend the southern end of the county, that's fine, because he could do the one that we're gonna do at West Side, which is Tuesday, the first one.
All right, so I just want to confirm April 19th, 6 o'clock at Westside Elementary, and then Saturday, the 23rd at 10 a.m. at Georgie D. Tyler Middle School.
So, okay, thank you. So there's another step into that. So the meeting on the 19th at 6 p.m. will also be the deadline when the surveys will close for community members to complete the survey on the 19th. And that is because this board needs to get together at some point to establish qualifications. And so let me say this, if you're having a meeting on the 23rd as well, we need to readjust this timeline because you all should not be meeting to establish qualifications till you've heard from both sets of folks. So if you all, let me get a calendar out here, if you all are meeting on the 23rd, and that's a Saturday, are you able to, let me get my calendar. Are you able to meet on the 26th or the 27th as a board collectively because this is open meeting to establish qualifications. And so the qualifications are going to come based on what you've heard, but also more importantly, from the survey results we're going to send you on the 20th. So, to each of you. So you all need to meet as a board to establish those qualifications.
26th or the 27th.
Well, yeah, I'm just using that as an example. Anytime after the 23rd, but sooner than later. Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter. Either one.
Would it be at daytime or evening?
It doesn't matter, because it's just
It'll
them.
be evening because Renee and Michael work, so we only have them in the evening.
Yep. Evening's fine.
So we'll do, we're 6 o'clock. And which day y'all want?
And this is
Tuesday or
just, so
Wednesday?
this is open meeting, it's just process.
Tuesday or Wednesday?
Doesn't matter.
Tuesday.
What about
Tuesday,
Mr.
all right, we'll do the
Cunningham?
26th
Mr. Cunningham,
then.
do those dates work for you?
What's that?
Does the 26th or the 27th work for you to meet to establish qualifications for the position?
Well, Mrs. Tons and some of the other board members know on the 20th, I have something going on, so I to tell you the truth, I know I won't be able to do anything between the 20th and sometime in May from what I'm getting ready to have done. So actually, unless I can meet, well, the 20th is definitely out for anything. But
Okay.
if I can meet virtually, then I can work things out. But
I mean, I don't see why we couldn't.
Well, we could do that because we can meet here virtually, or we could do it at West Side, because either here and West Side.
Yeah, you don't have to physically be here for this piece.
If you can sit like you're during the day, or, that's
oh
fine.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The only day I'm definitely going to be out is actually it's the 20th and the 21st. I won't even be able to do anything virtually.
Right.
But any other times, I should be good.
Okay,
Virtually at least.
so what date did you all say to meet to establish qualifications?
26.
26
Okay.
at 6 o'clock.
So, and somehow he's going to get zoomed in then something. Okay.
Let me
Yeah,
ask you
I'm
this
good with that.
question. On that particular day that we have to meet for the qualifications, it's just the board doing that, right?
Yeah, but it's not a closed meeting.
I know it's not a closed
Oh,
meeting, I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
asking you, just the board that's gonna be doing it,
Uh-huh.
not, okay. So we can meet here, and if anyone from the public wants to come, they can come into this.
Yeah, I would, because it's a work,
Yeah, it's a
like
work room.
session, yeah.
So we'll have it here, Jessica.
Okay.
That's why I was asking you, I know all of our meetings are open.
Well, not all of them, because when I'm coming
I
out.
know some of them are closed, yeah, but I'm,
Okay, so let me make sure I got this, help me. So we said the 26th at 6 p.m. here, is that what we said, Jessica?
yes.
So if that is correct, then we will backtrack a little bit, and I think that's why your question this morning was so important. Y'all gonna need an acting superintendent, no matter what, y'all gonna need an
I
acting
know, because we're pushing dates back.
So, it's okay. I mean, 'cause we want to make everybody involved, but I'm just saying, that's going to have to be at the top of y'all's list to start looking for an acting superintendent. So with that said, you would receive applications. That means applications would go live starting on May 2nd. And then they would close on May 27th.
What were those dates again, Gina?
May 2nd, applications, which receive applications from May 2nd to May 27th.
Okay, thank you.
And then, what is that? We can still keep the June 9th date for the second meeting with the SBA. And then the rest of it can stay the same, but the application process.
Okay, when's the applications end? You said they start the
27th.
2nd.
Oh, I'm sorry, the
27th.
22nd to the 27th.
27th.
The 2nd, May 2nd to the 22nd.
To 27.
Yes.
Thanks.
And then June 9th, we would meet here. This is a close, well, I don't know. Do you all can tell me later where you want to meet. This, because it would be a closed session just between the board and I. You'd have to be there to bring them in, take them in the closed.
Here.
Here.
What did you say? What was that
On
last?
on June 9th is a closed meeting.
It's a closed meeting, right.
And I know you all work,
I can take it.
but you need to give me at least 2 hours. Okay. That's good.
I have a question about, so the one that was here for April 21st, where we got to provide the established qualifications, so what's that date gonna be, now that the...
What day of the week is the 26th on?
The Tuesday?
For Tuesday.
So put the 27th.
What month we talking about?
April, I'm sorry.
It's this one where we changed this one to the 26th, so this one has to be the 27th, but provide established...
Did you get the correct dates?
Yes.
I
can
can
send this out.
She's just gonna,
Yeah.
just
Thanks.
bring us a copy to the meeting Thursday.
Okay.
And we'll clean it up.
Okay.
Back at the,
Yeah.
I won't be there tomorrow, I gotta go to Northampton, but we'll clean it up and send you a clean up.
Jessica will
That works.
bring us a hard copy to the meeting on Thursday.
And so that would be your timeline. So let me tell you, let's go over a couple more things here. So that would be your timeline. I also want you all, the board, collectively, and including Mr. Cunningham, given his schedule, to start thinking about how soon after June 9th you all can do interviews. So June 9th is what day of the week? I don't mean to keep answering, I can't see on my calendar, but what day of the week?
June 9th is
June
a
9th is,
Thursday.
Thursday. So you would want to think, you probably wouldn't be able to do it that weekend because of
Yeah,
the
Friday and Saturday.
Right. How soon that after that meeting on June 9th you all can meet?
Well,
to
the
start-
10th we can't do it because that's graduation.
Yeah, that's, and you got to keep all that
But
in mind.
it's not that we can't, but it's, we're gonna have two
Well, your
high schools
focus-
graduating and they're
your
gonna
focus-
retire.
Your focus should be
Yeah.
on graduation. So what would be the next, what's the next week?
Well, we could do it, what about that Saturday, 9th and Sunday, 10th,
Yeah.
because like, you know, we could, if, I mean,
I can do
anybody.
that.
But how many days does that give? So if I meet with you on a Thursday, you're going to call on a Thursday for an interview on a Saturday?
Oh, okay, I got
You
you.
understand what I'm
Oh,
saying?
that's too close.
Yeah, you could do the
We
following.
can do the
You
following
can do
week,
the
let's see
following
what's
week.
that.
And what's that Saturday? Is
That's
that?
the 15th and 16th, Friday and Saturday,
You
15th and
you could
16th.
do that. And I would
Actually,
say,
that's,
Well,
it's
that-
actually the 18th.
yeah.
It's the 18th and that's
Oh, I'm in
Father's Day.
July, I'm sorry.
Father's Day is that Sunday.
Weekend.
Well, I wouldn't do a Sunday.
Okay,
You just do it on.
we can do it a Saturday,
Um,
we can do Friday and
So
Saturday.
you said the 16th is when you give us the applications?
Can we do Thursday and Friday?
Oh, Gina, let me ask you a question.
What do you mean? No.
When are we gonna get the list of the people to be interviewed?
When she meets us,
When we meet on the 9th.
On the 9th?
So anytime after that, you can start doing interviews. But you don't, you want to be a little bit more structured
How many
business-wise.
da-
You want to give them
how-
more than 2 days to be prepared.
That makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, how long does it take to contact people and schedule the interviews?
Oh, well, you can do that immediately after we meet
Jessica
on
will
the
be
9th.
doing that.
No, Jessica will not. You will be doing that.
Oh, okay,
Staff members are not involved in
okay.
contacting candidates.
Okay.
And so you will want to do that.
I'll
So,
take it, yeah.
but Renee, you said what did you say, Father's Day weekend?
Yeah.
But
That's
you could
the-
do that Saturday, Friday and Saturday. couldn't you?
Friday and Saturday, because we could start Friday evening.
Unless somebody's out of town or
I
on vacation.
am on that
Yeah.
Saturday, on that Saturday.
Okay,
Thursday, Friday? No.
Well, why don't y'all let's
Just
do it
do it
this way,
all
Renee.
week.
Why don't y'all just have them get you some dates in the next week or so and then
Okay.
work around from there?
okay.
Because you want to make sure everybody, and I would say you want for that first round at least 7 dates. 7 time slots, not 7 dates.
Okay.
7 time slots.
Okay.
And give yourself 2 hours apiece.
Yeah, we just start.
Are you suggesting a
the following Monday.
Saturday because they're
I-
working or?
No, I didn't suggest a Saturday.
Okay, I didn't know. It's like, well,
I mean, I'll give you an
Friday.
example. I'm working with the board right now, and they decided they were gonna do 2 a night. They were gonna do 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, and it's a lot on them, but they, instead of using their weekends, they're gonna do 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday. Then the following Friday, they would bring back their finalists and do 2 on Thursday. So, but that's up to you all. You have to make it work for yourselves.
See, the issue with us, that would probably have some place where they can actually have it.
Yeah, and
With
we don't,
us,
and y'all don't
if we
talk
plan
about,
to-
and we don't wanna
right.
talk about location and.
Right.
No, my recommendation is something like that, the first round, first week, or the first half of the week, the second round, because there's gonna be fewer the second half of the week,
That's a good point.
you know?
And I would say to you all, you don't, I'm not trying to scare you, but y'all are behind.
We
Y'all,
are.
you're
trying to say we need some
No, most superintendents, no.
Things might tell us right
Most
now.
superintendents tell their boards in January if they're
That's
not
true.
staying. They don't wait till, what did y'all,
We're 3 months
February,
behind.
whatever, April,
Yeah.
whatever.
We're 3 months behind.
No, I don't want to say behind, but I don't think you want to prolong it, but so much.
We could do that following week. I'm okay with the following week.
What's the
Yeah, I think
following?
that works.
After, June 9th.
Yeah, so Denise, just get dates from them that'll work, and then we
Well,
can
the
work on that
following
first
week
round.
is the Father's Day week. You said you were not available.
That weekend.
Yeah, that
Saturday.
Okay, but you're talking about,
Okay.
So from
Tuesday,
the,
Friday, 13th,
from the 13th to the 17th.
yeah.
we're not gonna do Monday, you know why?
That's
The
fine.
reason I said, as always on Mondays, weekends, for some reason things happen, and people
Okay.
try to contact you on Monday, I can't be here.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
So we can do
Thursday.
Tuesday,
So
Wednesday, and
I would just say, just
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
yeah, just look at those dates and see and make sure they work with Mr. Cunningham. And also, so right around that time, school is out for a lot of folks, and there's graduations, and if they're setting superintendents or central office, you also must keep in mind there could be some vacations already.
That's true.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Just
Right.
starting to think ahead. But so I would say have 7 to 9 slots, even if you don't use them up, you want to have
Right,
them just
have
in case.
extras. So, well, what about June the,
But don't,
14th?
I think you all can talk about that.
later? Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
The most important thing is this search timeline, and also the fact that you all are the ears and eyes of your community also. Please keep that in mind. And there may be things that you know, qualities that you all know as a board also that needs to be within your next superintendent. And you need to make sure that that goes in the position announcement. And so it sounds like, oh, well, what is that? It does matter, because if that's not a quality that I possess, then I'm less likely to apply. Some people will apply, not a bit qualified, but you'll know those right off the bat. But you also don't want to waste your time on folks that don't meet your minimum requirements. And some of those are tangible things, some of those are intangible. I will tell you this, unlike any other position, the superintendency, it's based on those qualities like the degrees and the experience. It's also based on a fit. What's a fit for you? And I'm going to tell you, 24 years doing this, nobody knows better what's a fit for all of Wight County than this board. Gina Patterson has no clue what's a fit. I know technically who could do the job and wouldn't embarrass you, and there's nothing. Do you understand what I'm saying? But is that a fit? That's just like saying, what was a fit for me as a spouse and a fit for you as a spouse? They could be the same qualities, but the individuals look totally different. And there's nothing wrong with that. It has to be a fit. You all will know right off the bat if somebody's going to be a fit for your community or not. Because what you don't want to do is bring someone into a community that you're already setting them up for failure. Does that make sense what I'm saying to you? So just some things to keep in mind. I know it's a lot going on here. You got the book, you got my number, you got my email, and we'll get this going. I think as many of you that can attend those public hearings. And again, for the public hearing, one more thing. If you all have time, if you normally time your speakers, you can do that for a public hearing also, but be consistent with it. If you say, give a 3-minute or a 5-minute or whatever time at one public hearing, you need to do the same at the next public hearing. It needs to be the same for every speaker. So just some things to think about.
Gina, I have one more question. Background checks. Is the board required to do that? Is that done in the process of VSBA?
Now, I will say if they're an employee here in Virginia, they've already had a background check, so that's a given. If they're out of state, it may be a little bit different, but that's the question that we will talk about on the second meeting, because it's a great question. When you get down to your finals, let's say, if you were brought in and you were ultimately asked to be the superintendent, you provide us. We tell you, you get us the background check.
Okay.
Virginia, you don't have to, but out of state, that is something we have to worry about. And they do, most of them do, but it's good to have a clean copy of that. So.
Yep.
Same thing about a criminal background check. It's not a requirement, but I always say for out-of-state people, you ask them to provide you a criminal background check also. Some people it matters, some people it doesn't. And you may even want to go another step and ask for a financial background. Just because you don't want somebody that's been bankrupt 3 or 4 times running your multi-million-dollar organization. It's just little things like that. And to me, those are, sometimes people let those things slide, and those are the things that you don't let slide. So. All right, what other questions you got? That's it for now. You say you'll call me later.
Sure.
All right, thank you all.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Cunningham. Good to see you, even virtually.
Good, thank you, Gina. Good to see you also.
Jessica, did you need something else from me?
I would see the adjourn.
Okay. There's nothing else to come before us this morning. The meeting is adjourned. All right.
Gina, it's been a long time.
I know her